Hey guys, welcome back to the final part of my answer accuracy video. In my previous two videos, I explained how you can change non-exact or decimal numbers to whole numbers or to a certain number of significant figures. In this video, I will be explaining to you how you can change decimal numbers to a certain number of decimal places. For example, if the question tells you to change a decimal number that you get in your answer to 1 dp, 2 dp, 3 dp, etc. If you feel like you want to or you haven't watched my previous videos yet, you can go and watch them now. The link is in my bio, but if you feel like you're okay with the topics, then that's fine. So to begin with, the main part that you need to know when considering decimal places, or dp as the questions usually say, is that they only concentrate on numbers after the decimal point only. So this word after here, I've underlined it, is very important because that's basically the entire concept. I wouldn't be telling you things that the question would never ask you, so I wouldn't tell you a whole definition stuff, but this is what you need to know, that it concentrates on numbers after the decimal point. What I mean by this is, if you have a number like this, and it tells you to round it up to a certain number, like 1 decimal place or 2 decimal place, then you can only look at the numbers here because they are after the decimal point at this area. You're not going to concentrate on this at all. So, to begin with, I have written a rule here, which I also did in my previous videos to make it easy for you. It's a very generic rule. You can follow it for any question. So, to make things easy, we're just going to look at this section here. So this just means that numbers after the decimal point equals to the dp to find. So if the question tells you to change your answer to 1 decimal place or 2 decimal place, if it tells you to change it to 1, then you need to have only one number after the decimal place. If you have more than one number after the decimal place, you will get it wrong. For 2 dp, you can only have up to 2 numbers after the decimal place. Otherwise, you will have it wrong. You can't have less, you can't have more. You have to have 2 exact. If you don't have a number to put, you put a 0. I will explain that right now. So looking at this number, it says we should round it to 1 decimal point. So we're not going to look at this. We're not going to start counting from here. Obviously, we know that 1 means this, 2, so we count 1, 2, so this number, 3, 1, 2, 3, so this number. So 1 decimal place, we will be looking at the number at the number 1 position after the decimal place. So here, that is 6. Then we look at the number right after it. As it says here, if the number after the decimal point number is greater than or equal to 5, we do this. Less than 5, we do this. So this is our decimal point number. So 1 dp, this is our dp number here, number 6. If the number after it, let's look at this word, is greater than or equal to 5, because our 8, we know that it is greater than 5, so we know that it would fall into this category. So we're going to look at this. So it says that add 1 and change others after it to 0. That means if you have this, we're looking at the 6, and the number after it is 8, which is greater than 5. So we add 1 to the 6 and change all other numbers to 0. So by right, this would become 0.7000, right? Because we've added 1 to the 6 because the 8 is greater than 5. Yeah? However, as I said here, that the numbers after the decimal place equal to the dp to find. Since they're telling you to find it to 1 decimal place, you can only have 1 number after the decimal point. Therefore, these zeros are not meant to be there. This is your answer. If you put the zeros, you will get it wrong because the question, that is like going against the question, and the question is telling you to find it to 1 dp only. So you leave it to 1 dp. That's what it means. Going to the next one, 2 dp. So we're going to be looking at 1, 2. We're going to be looking at the 8 this time. We look at the number right after it, which is a 4. We know that this 4 is less than 5. So we're gonna look at this category. So it says change others to 0 only. We're not doing any addition, any subtraction, nothing extra, just change everything else to 0. So we know that the 255 will stay the same because it is before the decimal place. It is not affected at all. That is a constant. We just change everything after the DP number to 0. So this is our DP number, the 8. We change everything after it to 0. So 0.6800. That's our answer. However, as I said before, the zeros should not be there, otherwise your answer will be wrong because the question said that you should leave it as 2 DP. So you just remove our zeros and your answer is now 255.68 because the number after the DP number, which is 8, the number after it, which is 4, is less than 5. Going to the final 3 DP, this time we'll be looking at 1, 2, 3, so the 4. The number right after it is 2, which is less than 5. So again, we will be looking at this category. Says the same thing, change others to 0 only. So everything after the DP number simply changes to 0, no addition, no subtraction. That's how easy this rule is. There is nothing else to remember or, anything complex. So simply everything after the DP number, which is our 4, to 0. So 255 again stays the same because it's before the decimal point. 0.68, they're not affected since they're not our DP numbers and there's nothing to add or subtract. 6, 8 and 4, nothing to add because 2 is less than 5, so change everything else to 0. So just the 4 and 0, right? Because all the numbers after the DP number, which is a 4, change to 0, so the 2 changes to 0. Again, it is telling us to change it to 3 decimal place, so the 0 should not be there or else you'll get it wrong. There should be only 3 numbers after the decimal point. So that's simply it. That's how easy it is to work with decimal places. However, again, we do have something with the 9 rule. So if there's a 9 after it, I explained this in my previous video. If you feel like you need to go over to something again, the link will be in my bio. You can go and watch it. I think it'll be pretty useful if you want to understand all 3 concepts of whole numbers, significant figures, and decimal places. So looking at this, the 9. Something you should know, a 9 cannot carry a 1. If there's a 9, it is obviously greater than 5, so we'll be using this rule. But in this case, you cannot add a 1 because a 9 plus 1 would be 10. And a 10 would totally make the answer wrong. What I mean is, so changing this to 1 decimal point, so we're concentrating on this 9 because it is after the decimal place, right? So this 9, we're looking at this. The number right after it is 9. Looking at this, it is greater than 5. So we add 1 to the others after the decimal place. We add 1 here and change this. Everything after this is our decimal point number. We change everything after it to 0. So by right, our answer should have been 471.10 and 0. But then that doesn't make sense because you've not done anything to the number at all. So what we're going to do, when a 9 cannot carry a 1, I explained this in my previous video, when 9 cannot carry a 1, it gives it to the number beside it again. It's like a passing the parcel game, right? If this cannot carry it, it transfers it here. If this cannot carry it, it transfers it here. So it keeps transferring until there is not a 9 and the number can actually carry it. So if this is a plus 1 here, because it's 1 DP, we add 1 to this. So the 1 here will get a plus 1. This is the only time, and I repeat, the only time at all that a number before the decimal place is affected. Otherwise, this is everything about decimal places. But if there's a 9, then just be a bit careful. So for 1 decimal place, our 1 gets plus 1. So that becomes 472, right? However, again, we're not going to forget this rule. This is like a whole binder. We should not forget it. The number after decimal point equals to the DP you're finding. We are finding 1 dp, so there should be, by force, a number after the decimal point. If you don't have a number, it turns to 0. That means this 9 will then turn to a 0, because there should be a number after the decimal place. If there isn't, if you just keep your answer as 472, even though it is the same as 472.0, but in this case, when they're talking about decimal points specifically, then you have to put the 0, because you need to put one number after the decimal point. 2 dp, 1, we're looking at 1, 2. So we're looking at this 9. There's nothing after the 9, so we're gonna assume here that there's a 0. It's an assumption. Obviously, there's nothing, so obviously there would be a 0, which is less than 5. So here we look at this category. So change others to 0 only. So everything after the decimal point number, which is a 9, change to 0. Luckily, it's already a 0, so there wouldn't be any change in the number. It just stays 471 because that's how it was, and it's before the decimal point, so it should not be affected since there's nothing greater than 5 after the 9. 0.99, that's your answer. Again, there are 2 numbers after the decimal point because it's telling you to give it to 2 dp. If it told you to give it to 3 dp, you would have to put a 0 here, because you have to compulsorily put 3 numbers after the decimal point. That is like a compulsory thing. It's a basic requirement, as I said here. So apart from this, it's all about this. If there's a 9, be careful. A 9 cannot carry a 1, so it passes it on. And if it passes it on, it gives it to the number to the left of it, regardless if there's a decimal point in between or not. If, for example, if this was a 9 as well, let's say this was a 9, and this 9 passes its 1 on, this 9 again would not be able to carry it. It would pass it on to the 7. So that would become 480 point, well, if it's 1 dp, then 0. If it's 2 dp, then 0, 0. You know, that's just how simple it is. A 9 cannot carry 1. You need to keep that in mind. So this is just as a whole summary to my previous 2 videos combined with this. The main difference between whole number, significant number, and decimal place, because a question can tell you to leave your answer as either, and it is important that you know what these 3 mean and how they're different from each other. A whole number just wants you to put nothing at all after the decimal point. There should be no decimal point. So you're changing a decimal number to a non-decimal number. That's just whole number. Significant number wants you to put zeros or nothing after the significant number. So if you're given a decimal number like this, and it tells you to put it to 4SF, 1, 2, 3, 4, then whether you add something or you don't add something to it, everything after it will compulsorily be 0. You should only have numbers up to the first 4. Except there are 1 or 2 exceptions, which I have mentioned in my previous video. So yeah, the point of significant numbers, significant figures, is that there should be nothing after the significant number position. Actually, there should be position, significant number position. So for significant figures, look at the 4th position, and there should be no other number after it. Decimal place, there should be nothing after the dp number, as I explained here. So if it's 2 dp, we know that this is our dp number. 1, 2, this is our dp number. There should be nothing after it. Yeah. 3 dp, so there should be compulsorily be 3, nothing after it. That's how simple it is. So that's the main difference between these 3. If you have any other questions or you need any other explanations, please do comment on my comment section. You can ask me anything, and I will be also accepting requests. If you want me to solve certain questions that you're probably confused with, I can solve them for you. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and see ya.